Fort Myers Beach, a jewel of Southwest Florida, a warm, sunny vacation destination in paradise and a beloved community many locals call home. 1 year ago, on September 28, 2022, Hurricane Ian took a slow and destructive path along and through Southwest Florida. Peaking at Category 5 just offshore, Ian made landfall as a strong Category 4 storm at Cayo Costa, a northern Lee County barrier island. Through Southwest Florida and further north and east, the impacts forced upon us by this nearly unprecedented storm will be felt here for years to come. It's easy to focus on the intense winds of a hurricane. They can certainly be destructive, but a much more dangerous and life-threatening impact of a large tropical system is storm surge. Put simply, storm surge is an inundation of fast-moving water resulting from a tropical system lining up just right with the geography of a coastline. The large area of strong winds blows huge amounts of water towards land, causing rapid, often severe flooding. It can be compounded by coinciding with a time of high tide, as was the case with Ian. Storm surge from Hurricane Ian severely affected much of the Southwest Florida coastal areas and barrier islands. It washed out portions of the Sanibel Causeway and severely damaged treasured local areas such as Matlacha and Sanibel. It washed over land to flood inland freshwater lakes with salt water and deposited piles of boats on normally dry land. The surge also pushed water miles upstream in our local rivers, causing significant flooding of properties nearly an hour's drive from the coast. Several of our tree-line family were significantly affected by this historic surge. On Fort Myers Beach, the surge swept in to a depth of 10 to 15 feet above ground level, completely washing away many homes and businesses and severely damaging others. Many Fort Myers Beach residents found themselves in battles for their lives more harrowing than any horror movie. Many lost everything to Hurricane Ian and were forced to begin again, and tragically, too many fell victim to Ian's fury. Recovery for much of Southwest Florida took only a matter of months, if not mere weeks. A great many of us around the area are back to normal, with Ian being a strong but distant memory. But it is not always clear what struggles those who were hit hardest are still experiencing. Many of you are wondering about the conditions in areas like Fort Myers Beach, whether to come for a visit or a vacation, if there are businesses open, and how to help. You may even be considering purchasing property there. Several of us recently visited Fort Myers Beach to get a better grasp on the actual state of the recovery and the rebuilding. Treeline realtor Jen Swartz spent some time with a prominent voice among the residents of Fort Myers Beach.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Swartz with Treeline Realty, and I'm here today on Fort Myers Beach. I know so many of you have asked me where we are on recovery and cleanup of our beaches, and will there be a beach for you to visit this upcoming season? With the 1 year anniversary of Ian rapidly approaching, I thought today would be a great day for you to see where we were and where we're headed. So let's go take a look.
As a symbol of the recovery in Fort Myers Beach and hope for the future, a new pedestal clock has been installed in Times Square. It replaces the iconic clock which stood for many years, loved by tourists and residents alike. For those of you from the Midwest, as many of us are, the new clock was constructed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and made possible largely by a donation from a couple in Michigan. The clock is to be revealed during a remembrance ceremony on the 1 year anniversary of Hurricane Ian.
I'm here with Melody. She lives on Fort Myers Beach. And we thought we'd come down today just to talk to you for a little bit, just to get an idea of what's happening here. I have so many clients wanting to know, what's left of Fort Myers Beach. So tell me a little bit about where you started and where you are today.
Sure. So September 28th, 2022, I was celebrating my 39th birthday, and it was absolutely no celebration. Mass destruction. Hurricane Ian came. I witnessed everything from the third story of the boardwalk capers here on Fort Myers Beach, basically at ground zero where you saw all the boats on the road. It was complete carnage. We didn't know where any of our loved ones were. We didn't know if any of our loved ones were alive. We just knew all the buildings were completely destroyed. It was mass pandemonium. It was mass chaos. I can tell you it continued for about 6 months. Around 6 months, we have a huge community, a local community of people that not only love Fort Myers Beach, but we love it enough to stay living here, even though the second largest natural disaster destroyed literally everything. Our community was in shambles. There was nowhere 6 months ago to mourn the loss of our loved ones. There still is nowhere to mourn the loss of our loved ones. I think it's 19 to 21 open bars to drink at, and our community members are definitely loving every minute of having that lifestyle back. However, it's sad. It's sad to see what has transpired. We've got a lot of life in Times Square and the north side, all the way down Old McGregor Boulevard here on Fort Myers Beach. We've opened up just a few bars, just enough to say that we have some kind of function. However, we are not a fully functioning paradise. Past the point of the south end, there's a grocery store. Here we are 1 week shy of 365 days after disaster. On the south end of Fort Myers Beach, past the Publix, which is mid-island, there is a restaurant in the back, the Junkanoo, and the Fresh Cuts Bistro. But past that point, there's not even anywhere to buy a bottle of water. So a year later, the rent for locals such as myself to move back on island was triple. So that means paying triple the rent, triple the deposit, and triple that last month's rent. But it's worth it because we live here because there's something very magical that happens at sunset every single day. And it's something that Hurricane Ian didn't take away from us. One bad day did not destroy the rest of our life. And we have so much hope here going on 12 years later that I will tell you our community, regardless of the shambles that we're trying to put lipstick on a pig right now, our community is going to come through this better than it was before Hurricane Ian. I do believe that we are not in a rebuild phase yet, so everybody needs to just pump the brakes, hold on to your hats. We're still cleaning up. So to clarify, there was no proper plan of how to recover after Hurricane Ian, although I do know the town of Fort Myers Beach has worked on one now. In the beginning, everyone was proclamating this rebuild. We are not in the rebuild phase yet. There's probably 4 things being built on a 6.6 mile long island, 330 meters wide, being built right now. And yes, Margaritaville was being built before. It is expected to be done at the end of March. They're accepting reservations. They have a few hundred rooms, but that's not the end all be all for this island. There are going to be more places opening up. There's going to be tons and tons of signs of life here to come, but the rebuild has not happened yet. It took Margaritaville 7 years to put a shovel in the ground. So I want to ease the anxiety by letting everybody know a year later, this is a jungle. There aren't a lot of buildings. The seascape is beautiful, and we are literally living like Tiger Lily and Peter Pan, and we need to embrace the journey that is recovery and cleanup before the rebuild happens. But it's going to be great once it's all rebuilt, regardless of what everybody fears. The evolution of the island is amongst us.
So for those that are maybe considering a visit this coming winter, what would you tell them? Come visit, spend their money, help this community, and what can they do to help you guys? Where do you need help? And what it is that they can do to help support growing community again?
That's a great question. In order to support us, you have to kind of know where we're at, right? We're in shambles still. Our community is suffering. We have sadness, and nobody can tell us not to feel sad. We lost our loved ones, regardless of buildings. We're grieving. I want you guys to come sprinkle positivity all over us. Bring tons of money. We're all broken survivors crawling literally out of the darkness. Without you, there is no economic redevelopment of this island. We need dollars in order for rebuild to make sense when we reach rebuild. Do not just look for the nonprofits. Really just seek out individual personal people and ask them what they need. The survivors need more than they're sharing with anybody. We're keeping a lot to ourselves because we face a lot of public backlash, and we're kind of afraid to speak out. I actually became a large community advocate here on Fort Myers Beach because so many people came to me afraid to speak out, and I don't fear anything that's truthful. I firmly believe that people will come here if they know we need help. And every single person that's trying to rebuild their life here, I don't care how much money you had before Ian, we need help. We need visitors. We need people to take pictures and post them all over so that everyone can see real life here on Fort Myers Beach 1 year after the disaster.
And I know so many people do want to come visit you and come visit this beautiful area, because one thing for sure, like you said, Ian can take a lot from you, but it can never take this beauty. It's never going to be able to do that. And so talk to me a little bit about, I know that there have been a lot of questions surrounding, like, what are the plans for the future? I know there's been some controversy, you know, as far as let's make it, you know, big business, or let's keep it small and quaint. What are you hearing?
So I'm actually really involved, more so than I put out there to the social media beings that don't know me. Actually, I think everyone should go to Facebook and navigate over to the Town of Fort Myers Beach Facebook page. There's actually a survey being done right now. They're asking for public opinion. What does the public want to see this place turn into? And it's actually a rating scale, like what the priorities should be of the beach. So they're finally asking the right questions to the public, and that's a good place to start. However, a year later, we don't really have a plan. I think the town is planning, to be honest with you, safely saying we had to get over this first 1 year.
Lots of firsts for sure. And can you talk to me just a little bit about, because of course my clients want to know, what's the real estate like here right now? Is there any real estate here? Tell me about like what you're seeing as far as, you know, I have so many people calling and saying, you know, Jen, I want a cheap condo on the beach. You got to be able to find me one of those right now. Does that exist?
So I live mid-island. I live in the middle. I live right by where a property just sold for $52 million, the Coconut RV Resort. I will tell you right now that the property that's next door to me had the house completely washed away, and it's $444 per square foot for just the sand and the lot. I do know that condominiums are for sale, tons of them. Check the MLS. I think there was 110 that came open on the MLS just in the past like 3 days. I do follow the trends down here. But I will tell you right now, if you're looking for any type of property, look for that comprehensive property damage report, because I don't think the town of Fort Myers Beach has one yet, but I think they should make one. In order for us to totally fully understand what the cost per square foot is to purchase or to rent, you have to have a fair comp market value. And right now, I'll be quite frank with you, there isn't one. The block that I live on has 26 single family homes, and 7 of them have people in them. So how do you compare that? I would just be cautious, but be very aware that the second that you purchase your property, the day the doors of Margaritaville open, I think you're going to get a pretty good influx on price already. So if you purchase anything down here, don't plan to make a move for a year or two. You could come up on a cool $1 million on any property on Fort Myers Beach. Now might be the time to buy, but just make sure you're looking at if there is a fair market value, that your market value is being treated fairly in your area.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
One just last question for you as far as vacation rentals go. I know a lot of people have heard that there aren't any rentals, that any rentals that did exist, most of the locals are staying in at this point in time. Can you talk to a little bit about that?
And that's a lie. So on my block, I have several Airbnbs that are open, but the single family dwellings of locals that were renting, the landlords take no precedence to get these properties put back together, but they may come back as Airbnbs. I know there's only a certain amount of allotment, but there are a ton of Airbnbs. There are a ton of annual rentals, but there's not a lot of seasonal. You have to know someone who has a reasonable annual rental right now. And the reason for that is a lot of these landlords, the leases were abolished because our community was declared a state of emergency. So any contract that you had, whether it's a land contract to purchase or a lease, all bets off. It protects the landlord and it also protects the tenant, okay? Somebody like myself tried to move back to where I was before. They raised the rent on me. If I'm gonna pay this amount of rent to be on San Carlos Island, I'm gonna go over here where the local landlord that rented to only locals before Ian can give me a fair price for my lease. Rent for me, based on the space, is reasonable, but you really got to know somebody that gives a damn about you if you want any value behind an annual rental. And those seasonal rentals, they're there. they're definitely there. They're having pool parties next to my flat tire trailer neighbor that doesn't have power yet, and he lives in his RV with very little AC. So we have to hear the pool parties across the street at the Airbnb. There's one right over here where I live. If you're looking for one, I'll point you in the direction, you know.
Well, thank you so much, Melody, for taking a few minutes and talking with me and talking to me a little bit about what's going on here. I know we have so many people that want to know these things, and because I don't live here, I can't answer these questions, but we knew that you could. So thank you so much for answering that, and we're really excited to see what the future holds for Fort Myers Beach. So
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Where do you live that you don't know what's going on here?
So that's interesting. I actually live in Fort Myers, but we don't hear a lot about it anymore. We hear cleanup success stories. That's about it. We don't know where you're at on recovery. We don't know what you need or if you need anything. Do you have power? Do you have cable? Do you have running water? Are the public restrooms open? We don't know any of these things, and neither do our clients who may be considering a visit or maybe even a purchase this year. They don't know, because I mean, if we don't know in Fort Myers, they're not going to know in Illinois.
Yeah, and you don't know until you know. And local knowledge is key.
Yes, it is. Thanks again for taking a few minutes to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You're awesome.
You can find Captain Melody's Fort Myers Beach centered website at ilovefortmyersbeach.com. As she expressed, there remains a great deal of cleanup and recovery to be done before rebuilding can begin in earnest. However, the community is strong and has been working tirelessly towards these goals. There are numerous stories such as hers of not just first responders, but everyday folks becoming true heroes in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, and the community coming together to see to those in need and begin the recovery. Throughout Southwest Florida, all of us who were affected by Ian came together and pitched in. We made contact and accounted for each other, coordinated supplies and assets, assisted in cleanup and delivery of donations, and helped in countless other ways. Those who were able gave of themselves to those who weren't. The tremendous support from those of you outside our area was also essential and greatly appreciated. Together, we are rebuilding not just Fort Myers Beach, but our entire area back to the warm, sunny paradise it has always been. If you're wondering how you can help with the work yet to be done, donating to your favorite trusted charities is always good. fmbstrong.org and fmbcommunityfoundation.com being a couple options. However, don't hesitate to come for a visit. While there is much still to accomplish on Fort Myers Beach, you will find that a number of restaurants, beach shops, and other businesses have reopened their doors. Your patronage would be their biggest benefit. Simply coming to the beach to enjoy the golf, sand, and sunshine and support the community is essential to their recovery. If you find hotels and vacation rentals difficult to come by, remember that there are options further inland around the area, still within easy reach of Fort Myers Beach. And during your stay, don't forget the other areas who would equally benefit from your patronage: Sanibel, Captiva, Bonita Beach, downtown Fort Myers, and Port Charlotte, to name a few. Recovery and rebuilding our paradise may be an ongoing process for some time to come, but Fort Myers Beach and the rest of Southwest Florida are eager to welcome you. Come join us.